Over the past few months, I have been planning out my dream vision for HBO's new Harry Potter show, Season 1 and 2. And now it is time for my dream vision for Season 3. Now, full disclosure, Prisoner of Azkaban has always been my favourite Harry Potter movie. I just think Alfonso Cuarón masterfully shifted the style and tone from the first two films, and I love how it set the trend of each entry feeling unique. But of course, that was a film. For the HBO show, this is simply Season 3. So the tone and the style of the season will be much more aligned with the tone and style from Season 1 and 2. Although I do expect it to lean a little darker due to the fact that the characters are older and the story is slightly more mature. As for the episode count, the first two seasons are confirmed to be 8 episodes each, and I did follow that when planning out my vision. Even though Azkaban is a longer book, it's only by a little bit, only a couple of chapters, so actually I am going to continue with 8 episodes for this season. Don't worry though, this is a slight spoiler, but this is the last season that will consist of 8 episodes. But as I said, I do think 8 episodes will be plenty. It will just mean a little bit of trimming and condensing of scenes here and there. So with all that said, let's jump into my vision for Harry Potter Season 3, Episode 1, The Night Bus. The episode opens with a title card saying, England, 14th century. A narrator informs us about witch burnings in medieval times and how they were completely pointless, and explains that on the rare occasion that they actually caught a real witch or wizard, the witch or wizard in question would simply perform a flame freezing charm when they tried to burn them. They would then pretend to scream in pain whilst enjoying a gentle tickling sensation. As the narrator speaks, we see a group of men charge into a woman's house. They grab her, pull her out, tie her to a pole, and then light a fire beneath her. The narrator identifies her as Wendelin the Weird, informing us that she enjoyed being burnt so much that she allowed herself to be caught no fewer than 47 times in various disguises. We then cut to Harry in bed, reading a history of magic under the duvet and scribbling down notes on parchment. I think this is a really interesting way to start this season, as witch burnings are pretty horrific, so it does really highlight how this season will be slightly darker than the last. Before I properly jump into the episode, please remember to hit the subscribe button, like the video, and hit the notification bell, as I plan on releasing episode by episode each week for my vision for Season 3 of Harry Potter. We then see Harry get out of bed and go to the window, where he then sees 3 owls flying towards him, one being carried by 2 others. Each owl was carrying a package, and we watch Harry open each in turn, seeing that they are letters and birthday presents. And as Harry reads each letter, I think it would be nice to have the characters who wrote the letters narrating what Harry is reading. The first letter is from Ron, who tells Harry that he is in Egypt with his family after Mr. Weasley won the Daily Prophet Grand Draw. As we listen to Ron's letter, Harry unfurls a newspaper and sees the Weasleys all standing outside a pyramid. This will be very important later on. Ron also goes on to apologise for a phone call that he made to Harry earlier in the holidays. I absolutely love this moment in the book, and it was pretty difficult to know how to fit it into this episode, as Harry is simply remembering what happened instead of it happening in real time. I try not to be too over-reliant on flashbacks, however I do think that it is the safest route here. Basically, when Ron mentions the phone call, we'll see a flashback of the moment where Ron and Uncle Vernon essentially have a shouting match over the telephone. It's just way too hilarious to miss out. Harry then sees Ron's present, a sneaker scope. He reads Hermione's letter and sees her present, which is a broomstick servicing kit. And he finally reads Hagrid's letter and sees his present, which is the Monster Book of Monsters. Harry then notices one more letter, and this time it's from Hogwarts. And as he reads, we hear one more piece of narration, this time from Professor McGonagall.
Third years are permitted to visit the village of Hogsmeade at certain weekends. Please give the enclosed permission form to your parent or guardian to sign.
Harry looks glumly down at the permission slip, knowing it will be next to impossible to convince Uncle Vernon to sign it. We then hear Uncle Vernon's voice boom up the stairs, and we follow Harry as he heads down and finds the Dursleys eating breakfast and watching TV. On the TV is a news report about an escaped convict, warning everyone to be on high alert in case they see him and providing a hotline number. This is just a small detail that the movie left out, but I really like how it ties the story together once again, especially as we find out a little bit more about this in a later season during the Other Minister chapter from Half-Blood Prince. Uncle Vernon then goes on to tell Harry that Aunt Marge will be visiting for a week, and I especially want to include the moment where Uncle Vernon tells Harry,
"We've told Marge you attend St. Brutus's secure centre for incurably criminal boys."
At which Harry screams his outrage. I think it's really important to show how much bolder Harry is getting around the Dursleys and how he isn't afraid to be defiant in accepting who he is. Harry then goes on to essentially blackmail Uncle Vernon into signing the form if he behaves himself. And after Uncle Vernon agrees, we hear a knock at the door and Aunt Marge arrives. In the book, Uncle Vernon goes to the train station to get Marge, but this is just a minor detail that I have changed, and there will be quite a few moments like this in the season as a whole in order to condense things down to allow time for more important moments. The arrival of Aunt Marge will then be very similar to the movie, with her smothering Dudley with attention and throwing shady looks and insults at Harry. We then move into a montage of Marge's visit. As in the book, it describes how each day presented its own challenges, with Aunt Marge essentially testing Harry and him developing techniques such as visioning his broomstick servicing kit to stay calm. We see clips of them at different dinners, with Aunt Marge throwing insults at Harry, and we see a clip of them at a shopping centre with Aunt Marge buying Dudley huge presents and staring at Harry as if daring him to complain. The montage then ends with the final dinner of the week, and the rest of this scene will be very similar to the movie, with Aunt Marge getting overly drunk, going completely over the top with insulting Harry and his family before Harry loses control and blows her up like a balloon. The only real difference of this scene will be that Aunt Marge doesn't fly outside and into the sky like she does in the movie. Instead, she simply bounces around the living room ceiling, with the Dursleys trying to pull her down. Again, like in the movie, Harry then heads upstairs, grabs his trunk and Hedwig's cage before heading downstairs, telling Uncle Vernon he's leaving and stepping out into the night. We cut to black to end sequence 1. Sequence 2 is a slightly shorter but very action-packed one. It will also be very similar to the movie, as it will cover the night bus scene. Like in the movie, we follow Harry as he walks into the night before seeing a large black dog skulking in an alley. As Harry steps backwards, he trips over his trunk, throws his arm in the air before a giant purple triple-decker bus appears out of nowhere. The main difference of the night bus scene from the movie will be that this is more fleshed out, as the movie scene only lasted for about 5 to 6 minutes, and here I think we can allow about 10 to 15 minutes. Essentially, we see a lot more details about the night bus trip, such as Harry ordering hot chocolate and Stan promptly spilling it all over his pillow, the night bus stopping numerous times to let off nauseous witches and wizards, and a more expanded conversation between Harry, Stan, and Ernie the bus driver. Stan explains more about the night bus lore, and they have a much deeper conversation about Sirius Black, Azkaban, and the Azkaban guards. And one more point about the night bus, I think that the movies absolutely nailed the appearance of it, so I really don't think that they need to do much here in order to change that. I think once again, as I've mentioned before, the main difference will be the interior, with it basically just being more expanded and detailed. I'd almost want it to be like a TARDIS, much bigger on the inside than on the outside. Eventually, the night bus rolls up to the leaky cauldron. Harry steps out and, to his horror, sees Cornelius Fudge standing there with his hands on his hips and a stern look on his face. Harry freezes in shock, and we cut to black to end sequence 2. Once again, this is a pretty short sequence, but as it's so action-packed, I think it's fine, and it's also a perfect way to end sequence 2 on a mini cliffhanger. Sequence 3 opens up with Harry and Fudge in a private parlour, and the conversation between them is very similar to the movie again, with Fudge telling Harry that he's not in trouble for the incident with Aunt Marge, and that they're just relieved to have found Harry. The only real addition will be that at the end of the conversation, Harry will ask Fudge if he could sign the Hogsmeade permission slip, to which Fudge refuses. We then follow Harry out of the parlour and to a bedroom reserved for him, where we see Hedwig hooting happily in the corner. The rest of sequence 3 then covers a portion of one of my absolute favourite chapters from any Harry Potter book, Harry's Wonderful Week in Diagon Alley. This really is the first time where we spend an extended period of time in the adult wizarding world. Obviously, Harry has been to Diagon Alley before, but they were on very brief visits, and this time we'll truly get to explore many of the different nooks and crannies of Diagon Alley. Firstly, we would see Harry's time in Diagon Alley through a montage. Sorry for people who aren't a fan of montages, as it's really the only convenient way to cover Harry's time here without it covering an entire episode. We will see Harry in the Leaky Cauldron eating breakfast and watching all of the many different odd characters. We'll see him eating ice cream outside Florian Fortescue's ice cream parlour, my dream by the way, and we'd see him window shopping, looking at solid gold gobstones, a moving model of the galaxy in a glass orb, and of course, the firebolt. I'd also want to see the moment where Harry goes to get his school books and the incident with the shopkeeper being infuriated by the Monster Book of Monsters, and his relief when Harry says he already has one. This has to be included purely for the moment where the shopkeeper says,
I thought we'd seen the worst when we bought 200 copies of The Invisible Book of Invisibility. Cost a fortune, and we never found them.
Again, this whole sequence is just so important to me, as it really is the first time that we can see the wizarding world enriched in a way never seen before. The montage ends with Harry once again outside the ice cream parlour when he hears a voice scream his name, and Ron and Hermione appear. We'll then follow the trio as they head to the magical menagerie to get a rat tonic for Scabbers, as he's been looking very ill. Yet another breadcrumb. And whilst they're in the shop, a giant ginger cat leaps down onto Ron's head and then streaks out of the shop chasing Scabbers. Harry and Ron then rush out to find Scabbers, and when they come back, they see that Hermione has bought the cat called Crookshanks. And I really want the Crookshanks and Scabbers subplot to play an integral part of this season, as I know the movies did include it, but nowhere near as much as the book did. We then move towards the climax of the episode, with the trio heading back to the Leaky Cauldron, where they find all of the Weasley family waiting there, ready for a big reunion dinner. We get a quick reintroduction to all of the Weasley siblings.
Harry, simply splendid to see you, old boy. Marvellous! Absolutely spiffing.
And Mr. and Mrs. Weasley. We then see a brief clip of the whole gang enjoying their dinner before we cut to Harry in his room packing his trunk, as they will head to Hogwarts the next day. Harry then hears raised voices coming from the room next door, and when he goes to investigate, he finds Percy and Ron in a shouting match. Percy is accusing Ron of stealing his head boy badge, and Ron is saying that he can't find Scabbers' rat tonic and that he thinks it's down at the bar. Harry says to Ron that he'll go and find it, and on his way, he overhears another argument, this time coming from Mr. and Mrs. Weasley's room. Harry pauses to slyly listen to the argument, and as Harry listens, it gets more and more heated before he hears Mr. Weasley say that he wants to warn Harry that Sirius Black has escaped from Azkaban to find Harry and to kill him. We focus on Harry as he stands in the dimly lit hallway in shock before we cut to black and the credits roll on episode 1. And that wraps up my plan for season 3, episode 1 of Harry Potter. Darker and more mature, but still capturing the more humorous and quirky moments that makes this particular book so special. It gives us a strong introduction to the season and what Harry will have to face. It fleshes out the world in ways the movies never did, and it leaves us on a massive cliffhanger. Please let me know down in the comments what you thought of this episode and what you would change if you had creative control. Once again, remember to hit the subscribe button, like the video, and hit the notification bell so you're updated when I bring out my dream vision for Harry Potter Season 3, Episode 2.